I mean, one of the problems with this. Oh, I've lost you. It doesn't matter. One of the problems with this is that I've got to basically do a multi-stream, which can only happen by going live first and then going to the crowdcast. So anyway, here we go. I think we're live. So that's great. Listen, we are live. Welcome everyone to Brainfood Live On Air. This is episode 35. I think it's 35. I have lost count because I've been doing way too many of these. And I am in Kiev. I'm in Kiev, true Kiev, doing it live from there. I've just stepped out of some of the tracks because I wanted to do this show. And welcome everybody who's watching along. I'm also very pleased because once again, Adam Gordon has been replaced by Denis Dinkevich, a massive upgrade. For people who don't know, Denis is like one of the most prominent supporters of recruiting Brain Food. Certainly an individual that is responsible for most of the articles related to sourcing and what have you. That features in the newsletter. So Denis, massive pleasure to welcome you to Brain Food Live On Air. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, likewise. Actually doing great. I'm currently being at my corporate gathering. You know, we with the whole company like come together and get outside of Kiev. Yeah, and having some fun together. But again, it's an honor for me to join the Brainfood Live. Yeah, so I'm here.
No, that's great. Where are you? You look as if there's a forested area there. Are you in a country retreat or something?
Yeah. It's like corporate gathering, you know, when all employees from the whole world come into Kiev and we just having like the weekend together.
Yeah, that's a shame because obviously the times that I'm in your country are like very minimal, first time ever, and it would be great to meet you, but to see you again. But never mind.
That's life. I mean, unfortunately.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Anyway, listen. We always start the show in the same way. Before we start talking about Ukraine and recruiting here in this country, let's talk about Brain Food for last week.
Sure.
Have you read it? And if so, what was interesting for you, man?
Yep. So I did. And the most interesting thing for me is actually the interview handbook. I actually found it even earlier than the guy who created it, deployed it as a website. So it was just as a as a GitHub repository back in the days. Yeah. So and actually our product engineers get the real value from it because even considering that there are statements from the candidate standpoint of view, but still it helps them to design, to improve the flow of our interviews and sometimes maybe change their opinion on, you know, some approaches that they were using. Yeah, so I believe it's quite useful, especially for product companies. Yeah, because there are information from candidates, engineers from Facebook, and I mean really good product companies. So there are a lot for us to learn from.
You know what I think is super interesting about this type of content is that it's written for the developers to pass interviews, sort of from the other side of the market. So there's a huge market I don't think recruiters think about, but there's a lot of stuff that developers write and create and share for themselves in order to pass our interviews.
Right.
But actually we can learn a lot from them because we can understand the psychology of the developers, what they are training for, what they think is important for an interview. And really, if you're a tech interviewer, you will get better simply by looking at this and understanding this is how developers understand how to get through this process. So, and GitHub has become now, I think, a great content hub for this type of stuff. So I've just shared the link for everyone there at Yangshong, I think it's ChineseGuide.github.io, tech interview handbook. Definitely must read for if you're a tech interviewer. Okay, what else is interesting for you, Denis?
Yeah, another one is actually the topic from first round. I believe that first round is a really great blog in terms of the insights that they are sharing. I believe that each product in-house employee who are working for product company need to have a look at it because
Sorry, у меня просто live streaming.
yeah, we have Andrew.
I don't think we have. I'm gonna. He's not there. I'm gonna remove him, and I'm gonna see if I can get him back on. But we're gonna be joined by Andrei Stetsenko. Hey, Brainfood Live, it's chaos, right? But that's okay. Let me see if I can get him back on. But yeah, on this topic, you are right. First Round do firstly an amazing blog, firstround.com. Just go and follow that. They've been featured multiple times in recruiting brain food. They are a fantastic content. What they really do well is actually crowdsource content. I've learned a lot from doing that from them. And the post here is just simply 40 interview questions that are that have sourced, I think, from C-level people and how they use it. Some controversy. A lot of people fed back to me and said, Hong, I'm not happy with some of the questions. These are not questions I would ask. And I'm saying, hey, listen, we're not trying to say this is how you should interview. We're just providing you the resource to say, look, if you want some inspiration, here's some questions you might like to use.
Right.
So there you have it. Anyway,
but everyone wants like detailed manual just how to do it, but not to think and inspire sometimes. I mean,
it's a very good point. The expectation of content. Some people just want how to like complete.
Yeah.
Just do it for me. And whilst I'm happy to provide that, Recruiting Brainfood has got plenty of how-to guides. Sometimes it's useful just to give you a bit more of a bigger resource, and you can dive around and do what you need to do. So
yeah, true.
Good stuff. Okay, so what else is interesting, man?
So I think that actually it's really great that the true conferences hosted by Bill Burman, reaching the 10 years milestone, it's actually amazing that he's able to to maintain this community, and even we in Kiev have conferences within this brand name. So yeah, it's great. Actually, Bill is a great guy, and I wish True to exist. I mean, 10 years more and even longer. A really amazing format. Yeah.
You know what? True London is Bill was meant to be in Kiev actually, but he couldn't make it for various reasons. So it's a shame for us, but there's no question it is a brilliant idea. The concept of having people. True, by the way, stands for the Recruitment Unconference. So unlike everything else, it's a recognition that the best conversations, the best content typically takes place in the coffee area after the talk is finished, not necessarily from the folks on screen. So how can we get more people to go ahead and do that? Brilliant. Let me see if I can share the link to that. Because 10-year anniversary next week. If you're in London, I strongly recommend you attend this. Donation only. So Bill is not one of these that wants to price the ticket at €200, £200, whatever. Literally, you pay what you think you can afford. If it's £10, €10, whatever, that is what you pay. Just turn up and go. It's going to be a great networking opportunity for you. So yeah, that's cool. Okay, man. What else? Anything else that was interesting for you, Denis? Before we start talking about Ukraine and what it is all about recruiting in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. The collection of publicly available APIs, really inspiring. Also, kind of a field to dig into and to think how you can, see where your candidates also doing some interaction with some kind of products. I don't know. I just saw the API from BlaBlaCar and was even thinking about figuring out those who travel in frequently and from one to another country, and it's just the opportunity, for example, to find someone who relocating to those or another country. So a lots of inspiration in there, I believe, and it just require involvement of the engineer. But again, for me, it's just 30 minutes of his time, and I can let him go and do it by my own. So it's actually great opportunity, to use it as well.
Yeah, I just shared the link on the chat stream there, the public APIs. Basically a database and a website of all the APIs that they've scraped that are found that you can freely use. And this was actually from, I think, Susanna Frazier's group. which you would know is a fantastic group for, I think it's called Sources Who Code. And for me, it's one of the best Facebook groups around also. So there's two reasons why this is a good thing to share. Number one, because it gives you, as you say, a great resource for people who are a little bit more technically minded to try. But it also kind of surfaces up this great group who I recommend people join, because I think it's a great example of a online community that's focused on a particular topic. So, you're not talking about all the things in recruiting that we can talk about, which we do talk about, employer branding, D&I, assessment, all of those great things that are important. But this group, narrow, let's focus it. It's all about the technical resourcing. And really using IT in a slightly more advanced way to figure this out. Anyway, we seem to have Andrei here. Andrei, are you with us?
Yeah, hi guys. Do you hear me?
We can hear you. Sorry it's taken a while to get you on board, Andrew. I know that you're probably in a lift. I hear the lift going down.
So I try to find the most quiet place, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. Andrei, just so if people who don't know who you are, can you just quickly introduce yourself to the crowd whilst I get your LinkedIn up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's I'm really honored to be at your crowdcast, at your Brainfood Live On Air. I actually watched a few of them before. So yeah, my name is Andrew. I'm a tech recruiter. I've been working for this role more than 10 years. And recently I started to, I hope at least, change the industry for better. So I launched a few products like Glossary Tech. This is an online glossary for recruiters who want to speak better technology. I also launched a product that calls Relocate Me. This is a job board for software engineers and tech professionals who are willing to move. And right now I'm playing with the new software that helps more applicants to improve their resume in the kind of real time. So the product calls CV Compiler.
You know what? I don't know what you think about this, Denis, but I think it's incredible the production that Andrei has managed to achieve. Not one, but two, but three great products that are very widely used now. Glossary Tech is very widely quoted. I don't know whether you know this, Andrew, but a lot of people use this tool. I don't know how many downloads you've tracked or whatever, but it's one of the best Chrome extensions, I think, for the tech recruiter community. Concept super simple. You're there to basically help them contextualize these technical terms and have a better understanding of it, so that when you do have a conversation with the software developer, you'll be in better position to have a good conversation. How many downloads have you got actually, Andrei? Do you know?
Yeah, so far we had more than 12,000 installations on the Chrome extension. Unfortunately, we face some issues with the Chrome security. So we have some issues. Probably, I guess there's similar things and other Chrome extensions might face. So due to changes of privacy in the Chrome, you usually have some issues with Chrome extensions. So yeah, we have some upside downs, but yeah, in general, we probably have around 250 or 300 people that use Glossary Tech daily.
Okay, I want to talk about this because actually the Chrome extension golden era kind of is coming to an end, isn't it? I mean, we had a wonderful ecosystem. Almost every week we were finding some amazing tools that could help us find email, help us enrich data and all this stuff. And it was happy times for technical recruiters. But Google changed it very recently and quite aggressively. I wonder what your opinion is, guys, on this. I mean, do you think that it is a permanent and significant shift towards data privacy that's going to really constrain the future viability of these types of tools?
Yeah, so I think that it's actually very similar to the global trends. I mean, to what's happening with the privacy, with the compliance, with security of our data. I mean, I think that we just can't go around it, and because it's just happening due to due to Cambridge Analytica, due to Facebook and all that stuff. But What I'm still realizing is that so, for example, also another example of non-compliance with Chrome store is extension quickly from Andrei Bradshaw. So he also decided to not to push an update anymore to the Chrome store due to the lot of complexity around it. But still, I understand that for now, this is the most convenient way, I mean, to share your product with the audience and to find your, product market fit, because the audience of Chrome Web Store is global and it's huge. I mean, and unfortunately, as all of the giants from this sphere, Google going to lead the game, I believe, the nearest 5 years. Definitely, yeah. So.
You know what? It reminds me of the time when, do you remember when Twitter had an amazing ecosystem, when they had a fairly open API, everyone was scraping it, building products on top of it, some wonderful stuff. I actually worked for a company that was very dependent on Twitter API, Peer Index, which is like an influence type of product. But then they cut it. So there's only like 3 companies could use it. And then boom, all of these products companies had to fall over and die. And it just felt like a cataclysm. It's like a meteorite hits the planet and wipes the dinosaurs out. And it's like, oh no, why has this happened? And as you say, with Cambridge Analytica, I think that's going to turn into a seminal moment in software development, because it changes the viability of these smaller, these types of products, and also how you build them, right? Because oftentimes these Chrome extensions are built by a single developer. They can get traction, 100,000 million users for one developer. So it was, in some respects, quite a democratic environment. But now, one guy can't afford to do that because he's not going to get that volume of usage, and the overhead of maintaining it in the face of some of these the legal friction will make it unviable for a single developer. So suddenly, it rewards again the big player. I don't know. What do you think about the future of this, Andrei? I mean, you kind of had to stop development on Glossary Tech as a result of this. I mean, how do you see the future ecosystem for Chrome extensions?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, for example, me and my team, we actually felt the issues because all the time you receive a lot of emails from recruitment community like, hey, Glossary Tech is not working. So you all the time need to support it again. So it definitely makes some pain in the ass for us. And all the time it's kind of investment for us to research the new issue with Chrome. So yeah, the second point is that I think it's personally it's a good thing because like I don't know like about the rest Chrome extension world, but yeah, you definitely if you use the Chrome extension for free, so you definitely need to understand like how your data is used, how your data is stored, and what's kind of so you need to have the full transparency of the data. And for us, for example, we're a European company. We have to be GDPR compliant. We have to be transparent with our users. So for us, for example, to when Glossary Tech scans the LinkedIn page or kind of resume that's even online, we also prefer to, for example, anonymize the personal data. So can imagine for a developer, it's extra time and extra layers that you need to create for the Chrome extension to be kind of honest with your users. So I'm not sure like if the rest developers of Chrome extensions take care about like this properly, and also like if it's free, definitely if it's not charity, right? So even for Glossary Tech, we have the real aim. So first of all, we want to help recruiters community. Also, like we promote our brand. Also, we somehow link the Glossary Tech with the rest of our products. So we have also like not only kind of the charity, I would say mission, but also we have the direct kind of marketing for our other products. But I'm not really sure if other developers of Chrome extensions like use the same patterns and they follow this way. So you definitely need to be sure. And I guess Chrome and Google try also to protect this. And probably I'll be definitely not against when Google will try to understand how the Chrome extension use data. and also try to separate like the really, I would say, good Chrome extensions and some Chrome extensions that might have some issues, and probably they should be more kind of selective which Chrome extensions they pose. And probably if they have some issues, for example, you don't pass some compliance, then you will they will stop your Chrome extension, and then you need to prove that you use the data in the right way. If you're compliant to their like policies, to their standards, how you make the Chrome extension. In this case, probably they shouldn't pause it because it definitely gives some value to some users. But in general, if you do it in the right way, if to be transparent with the data, and I think like Chrome extension could be definitely increase your efficiency, not just a recruiter, but as a user or a kind of professional.
You know what, Andrei, I have to say though, I think that's an overly optimistic view, because at some point the return to investment for the developer is not enough to do it. So again, in my imagination, I'm thinking of the solo developer, and the solo developer is basically someone who's hustling away, trying to get his or her product out and create a viable business to do it. Sometimes, yes, playing fast and loose with the data. I totally get that. No one's in favor of this. But at the same time, there's a lot of great developers that now the risk of doing so and stepping into this world is too much, and they're going to disappear. So anyway, we've lost Andrew again. I think the elevator is not working well for him. Let's move on to the next topic, Andrei. Sorry, Denis. I'm in the middle of True Kiev. This is an event organized by Indigo Recruit, I think, one of the big recruiting companies in Kiev. Always been fascinated about how recruiting works in this country, because I know that there's a lot of technical recruiters in Kiev because of the outsourcing side and all the rest of it. Again, there's a very big engineering history here with the country as well. So I think from a technical recruiting point of view, Ukraine in specific generally, but Kiev specifically, has always been a strong part. So I wonder what your thoughts are on this, Denis. Like, where would you put IT recruiting in Ukraine compared to other countries that you might have had some experience with?
So I agree that both of these spheres actually are pretty developed and having big numbers. But what I need to mention, and it's actually my opinion, and I believe that it's one of the reasons why at some point I switched to sourcing, because the level of proficiency of most of the recruiters, I would say, is not good enough for me. I mean, we don't have this kind of, approach when you are building long-term relationships with candidates, when you are like not thinking like only about placing someone to the job you are currently working, but just shaping these relationships in terms of maintaining your personal database, and then maybe in the future filling another roles with the folks that you were talking about, the roles you are currently working. Also, I think that we have pretty good sourcing community, but recruiters who work for big outsource companies, like for example, like EPAM or Luxoft or something like this, they just, don't care about their sources, I believe. And even if they split in function sourcing from recruiting, they just don't put a lot of efforts to develop it wisely, and everyone from the team, they are just sourcing on LinkedIn, using like the most expensive package, and everyone uses the same filters. They are just navigating through the same people, and for me it's just kind of it's really sad. I mean, that it's happening, and I'm actually doing my best to share the best practices of how it's happening globally. Yeah, and I think that so this is actually my opinion on this matter.
No, I appreciate your honesty, man. I mean, but I think it's again quite a harsh view of it, because I don't think this is unique to Ukraine. I think most
Yeah.
countries probably are struggling a little bit with this. And the default is always LinkedIn. We know this is a fact. In fact, we did a big recruiting survey. I think you helped me with this actually, Denis, earlier in the year, where basically Andrei is back again.
Guys, I just escaped from the elevator. It was really like challenging assignment for me, but yeah, I managed. I fixed all the technical issues, so yeah, I'm finally here. So yeah, happy to join.
Okay, perfect. So we're talking about I think basically globally we have similar challenges no matter where we're at. We don't know quite where the division between sourcing and recruiting is, and staff development is generally quite poor. Because this is at the top. I don't think it's a result of individual recruiters, and in fact, the individual recruiters often has to own their own journey in improving their skill set. Like no one is going to tell you this is the journey. It's like we have to do it ourselves. And thankfully, we're starting to see the community build, and we're helping each other to do with that. And a big part of what we're doing here, and I'll just show you a quick walk around. The community here that I'm kind of in the middle of. Is big part of big part of this self-improvement. It's not going to come basically from a corporate manager. They have no incentive. It's got to come from individual recruiters coming together and sharing information in a peer-to-peer type of way. But okay, tell me about the unique parts of recruiting in this country. So I'm not talking about recruitment community per se. But if I'm in Ukraine recruiting Ukrainian people, what are the sources? What are the channels I need to be using for this?
Yeah, I can't actually say that I'm the big expert nowadays because I've been living outside of Ukraine for a while, and actually probably since 2012, me and my team we try to focus like on other markets, like Europe, like North America, Asia. But still, like as far as I see, and also as far as I remember, the Ukrainian market, especially like in tech, is pretty competitive. So you have a big number of engineers in one place. Also, like the recruitment community is really young, and there are a big number of new faces like every year. So it's easy kind of to join the recruitment forces. I even had some.
Can I interrupt you right now, Andrei? Just give you 1 second. Just looking around at the people here, like just with an eyeballing it, I can tell the recruitment community here is young. You go to London, for instance. Yes, there's young people, but you get a lot of grey hairs as well, right? In this room, I see one person with grey hair. Like a lot of
yeah, me too. Like despite the fact I'm pretty young, but still, this is probably more for the genetics. But I don't know.
So, but it tells me a little bit that it is maybe not a mature market in that regard. So that the big mature businesses, maybe recruitment generally is still has tracked outsourcing. So we're looking at an industry that's 15, 20 years maximum in terms of being around, and it's still like bringing in young talent. And even now, people who are career changing into it. So it's still an attractive, up and coming industry, which I think can only be positive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you mentioned about kind of the outsourcing part of Ukrainian tech community, because still it's probably like 80% of probably, Denis, you could tell me more, but probably 80%, by my opinion, is more like all the software that is currently creating in Ukraine is more like for the services that provided for the US clients, for the European clients. And that means also a big pressure for recruitment itself, because like the nature for outsourcing and outstaffing as a business, especially in software, like software houses, they tend to grow really fast. And for example, if they have a new client, and this could be, for example, a huge automotive concern, and then you need immediately to hire, for example, 80 people or like 100 people. So this makes a big pressure for recruitment. And then you see a huge number. For example, that's quite normal in Ukraine. I could be mistaken, Denis, you could probably tell me. But for example, in classical software outsourcing company, you might have the goal to hire from 5 to 10 or people per month. and this is on a constant base. So if, for example, if you see even the growing startups, they have a big number of hires, but still it could be just in tech, it could be 10 positions maximum that could be filled, for example, in 6 months. And here you need to close, for example, 10 positions per month, and you have the plan to do it from month to month, because otherwise you can't get this client. So this pressure, you really feel it in Ukrainian recruitment. What do you think, Denis? Like, is it like real situation or like?
Yeah, Hank, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just
okay.
I was remarking on, yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah, I actually completely agree, and I believe that that's where the quality drop happens, right? So when recruiters are under pressure, they just, not providing feedback, they just slapping these candidates around and just, looking for the one to place. Yeah, and that's actually also an issue. I was recently interviewing sourcer from the big outsourced company. I think I can name it. It's actually Cyclum. Yeah, and so they are working on 10 roles simultaneously. Imagine it. And I believe that one of the main bottlenecks, I would say, of sourcing is actually having no focus. When you are because sourcing, it's kind of related to many activities, right? So it's engagement, contact information finding, etc., etc. And when you have also like 10 roles simultaneously, I'm amazed how they are achieving the results they are eager to achieve, because for me it's absolutely inefficient way of using sourcing as a function. So yeah.
You know what? I wonder whether there's a number of requisitions at which point the quality goes down, because everyone, I get the feeling people don't know that number. How many is too much? How many is too few? That is not clear to me. But if you're recruiting, let's say, 10 totally different positions, so we're not talking duplicates, and that is a surprise to you because you're delivering for an outsourcing supplier, suddenly the spike goes up, you then have to do it, then of course the quality is going to go down. And actually this is where you default to, we have to use LinkedIn, or we're putting adverts out, you're doing the basic stuff because you don't have time. There's not enough time in the day to really develop the skill sets there. So yeah, super interesting in the context of the economy here, the primacy of outsourcing, triggering this effect of overburdening recruiters that then triggers the third order effect of poor candidate experience.
And I definitely would add that probably like because you have a big pressure of roles, you have like big number of vacancies that needs to be filled as soon as possible. In other way, you'll just lose businesses. So it's like, I would say probably outsourcing is pretty the same in this way to recruitment agency that needs to fill roles. Otherwise, another provider will help you to do this. So, and the essential growth for this and how you can fill these roles in Ukraine, I saw that the big number of new recruiters started to appear on the market. And also, it's pretty popular in Ukraine, like as a growing country with a growing economy, to be somewhere connected to the IT industry. So even I interviewed some young, fresh blood in recruitment, and they wanted to enter recruitment just because it's somehow connected to IT. So they thought, okay, I'll be talking more to developers. I'll be understanding what's going on. I know the market, so probably then my next step will be, for example, to be a tester or to be a junior, like software engineer or whatever. So I would say it's also quite popular in Ukraine to be a recruiter. And also like because you need to supply this demand for this big number of roles. And I see still the growth of number of agencies that appear on the market. Also, it's pretty unique, I guess, in Ukraine that we have a big number of freelance recruiters. And you shouldn't like mistake it with the freelance recruiters, for example, like in the US or in Europe, because like freelance recruiters mostly in Europe, for example, they're kind of RPO based. So they're self-employed first, and they go to the company for example, for 3 months, for 2 months to fill some number of roles, and then they quit and then change the role. So I would say they kind of interim recruiters. And in Ukraine, we have a big number of, we call them freelance recruiters. That means they actually use the kind of no cure, no pay, or kind of there's no prepayment fee, like the same like agencies use. But this is way less than the agencies. So we have, I estimate that probably in Ukraine there are more than like 500 or even like 1,000 of kind of freelance recruiters that would, for example, work for the twice cheaper fee as the regular agency. And in this way, for example, companies want to feel, okay, if I go to agency, probably I need to add 2 freelance recruiters. They're obviously cheaper to win this volume game. So
I think that's actually a pattern I think is fairly common in other places as well, because if you have some experience as a recruiter, it makes sense to go out on yourself. You have the confidence, the network, etc., to do it. Why would you work for a company that takes off your commission? You can outcompete them in terms of the rate, because 50% of 50% is better than 100% of 2%. So I can totally see that this is the maybe the fragmentation of agency market is going to be the future, because it's easy. At the end of the day, we all know it's a one-man business or a one-person business. And if you're doing contingent work, you have a specialism, you have customer, no reason why you couldn't be a success here. I want to touch on the perception of the industry here, because you mentioned it's in the UK, for instance, and the US, I think, in many countries, the recruiter is perceived quite low as a career. It's not that respected for various reasons, justified or not. Are you saying in Ukraine it's actually a respected profession now?
Yeah, so I think that for me, it's actually, especially you mentioned earlier that there are a lot of technical recruiters. And I mean, it's not a mistake that they're technical, because actually, again, Andrew also mentioned that our economy is growing. And I was supposed to ask, are you sure? Yeah, I mean, because I'm not sure. I'm actually living here. So, but I'm just kidding. We already elected nice president, so everything's gonna be all right soon. But what I'm trying to say is that information technology is actually one and only area when you can earn enough money not to feel yourself poor and unhappy and etc. And unfortunately, that's how we are getting this low quality in general in this market, because a lot of folks there they understand that recruitment is actually their way to go to join the IT community, and that's why they're young. Actually, I mean, it actually provides the answers to lots of questions. But I agree that it's definitely a perspective career for Ukraine. And to be honest, it was pretty unexpected for me that you said that in US and in UK it's not it's not considered as a very perspective career. So
outside of the industry, I think it's still quite disreputable, because obviously behavior of agencies over time has been tough, and everyone has been through the process as a candidate, and this can be very difficult for people to then disassociate that experience with hey, there's Yevgeny, how are you doing? I'd love for you to join the show, man. Log in and you can do it. But it's basically one of these things where in a growing economy, it's a younger industry here in Ukraine, and it kind of tracks with IT, which is a big part of the growth of the economy in the country. So maybe those two things will help the perception be at a higher level here in Ukraine than it is in the rest of the world. I want to go back to again the sources of it. Like, how do you source in Ukraine? Because I know there's all kind. I heard a lot about Skype, for instance. Like, who the hell does sourcing on Skype? But it seems that this is a tool or channel that you guys use, and actually, I don't think anybody else does. Can you explain this to me?
Thanks. Let me explain this weird
okay.
thing, or you're going to start. You're going to start.
Okay. So, I hate Skype, first of all. I don't have Skype installed anywhere on my devices. But what I need to mention is that, a lot of developers, they are, for example, either using Skype on their work or I don't know. But, for me, aside from, .NET developers and C# developers, because they are like using Skype, I believe, because of the technology and the Microsoft in general. They are just fans of the programming languages they are using. But still, quite you can actually, they're online in Skype, so you can reach them in different places. But online, they're pretty frequently there. So we are actually have this step in our. For my company, I designed the flow, when you can find the contacts. So, and one of the steps is actually go to the tool that can resolve the email to Skype username. So we are using it as a channel, but I believe that still, you can reach people outside of Skype.
No, but
definitely.
so now I understand a bit more actually, because maybe it's tied to the outsourcing economy, and of course Skype is now embedded in the Microsoft universe. So let's say there's a lot of demand for Microsoft development, .NET development that is outsourced. All of these developers are training in .NET, Microsoft skills. Ipso facto, they have to be on Skype. Therefore, Skype becomes a channel. Simple as that. So maybe the proportion of Microsoft developers in Ukraine is slightly higher than it is in other countries, and because they're on Skype, because it's wrapped into the ecosystem that they use, therefore it becomes a viable channel.
Yeah, that's interesting hypothesis. Actually, I don't have any numbers to prove it, but I will definitely look into it. Yeah, it's interesting, really.
I would like to add. I would like just simply explain how I use Skype. Probably 8 years ago, when I was working hands-on IT recruiter in Ukraine. So first of all, it was really popular and kind of competitive between recruiters to have more contacts in Skype. So, for example, when I hire a recruiter, I ask how many contacts in Skype do you have. So this was kind of the example of if this recruiter is so proactive or prefers more like a phone calls, etc. So that time I had more than 2,000 contacts in Skype. So that makes when the iOS application appeared. So I installed Skype, I opened Skype, and it crashed because there wasn't enough memory in my phone because I had too many contacts. But what's really good point about Skype that day, and still what's really cool, so first of all, you can use it as a kind of a search tool. So you can put name, surname, you can put email, you can put nickname. So there is a few ways to find actually the direct contact of a candidate. Secondly, I actually use it as a small kind of CRM of candidates. So usually it looks like name, surname, technology. Sometimes it could be a company. Then it might be even the salary expectation.
Oh, so you can put
it was kind of
profile, yeah.
So in the name, I changed the name of the person to kind of more adjustable search. So then, for example, if I need to look for database administrators who work with MySQL, I just typed MySQL in my search of the contacts, and then it appeared, for example, 10 people who I immediately outreach to get contact. And it seems like Skype is still popular for Ukrainian developers. Some of them, they still use it. But also I see kind of a switch. So most of them use Telegram as a messenger. Also probably more younger generation of developers, designers, product managers, they prefer to use Telegram because first of all, it's faster, it's lighter. And also I see right now the switch in Telegram it's not just a messenger, it's more kind of a content. So you actually consume content. So there are a lot of public places, etc. So if you use Skype, it's more for the personal reasons. So then Telegram is like the reason where you communicate, obviously, but then when you can get some new content. So the same way, for example, you can run recruiting Brainfood at Telegram. So then I'll consider Telegram as a source for communication, but both kind of self-development. So in this case, it's great to contact and outreach developers because it's not super private. So
you know what?
Yeah.
It tells me that Skype has missed a massive trick because they were so far ahead so early by having a communication tool, a chat channel. You could also attach messaging. You could do the video, of course. But I think they never thought beyond, because they started as a video comms tool. They were locked into the conferencing idea. And they never kind of thought about it potentially being a collaborative tool or a group or community type tool, even though it's probably easier to build those features than it is to build video. So yeah, they were so far ahead, maybe too far ahead of this, and they weren't able to pivot from it. Obviously, Microsoft bought them, and Microsoft had their own concept as to what it was going to be. And I think they spent a huge amount of time trying to build like a web app version of this and all this kind of chaos. But yeah, it's a shame. But very interesting to see that you have used it as a CRM. I've never heard of this before. And yeah, it seems like a viable channel to recruit people in Ukraine. So if you're hiring for developers in Ukraine, don't ignore Skype. Moving on to Telegram. Telegram is a widely used chat product, but in the Western world, meaning Europe, particularly, it's not particularly well used. Can you explain why Telegram is popular here, and what do you see the future of? Why do you see the potential of it as a recruiting tool in Ukraine?
Andrew, me? Who's going to
Either
start?
one of you, you go.
Okay, yeah. So then I will elaborate on this. I believe that Telegram is first of all, it's from the Russian creator, from the creator of the VK, and I believe that first audience coming from Russian Federation and from other like nearest regions. To be honest, for me, it's not clear why it's not that much adopted in Europe and in United States. But I really like this messenger. I mean, first of all, it's really amazing source of the content. I really like the idea of channels. It's not only chats, but channels that are sharing information. It's easy to navigate through this content because you can use hashtags. You can create, different kind of a table of contents, and people, just pin this message, and people who like join in for the first time, they're able to navigate, to understand how to go through all of this feed and to find something useful. Another thing that is pretty developed in Ukraine is actually job posting channels. But for me, I mean, they're not working very, very well in terms of the conversion. And even though there are lots of views and these messages can be shared, in different channels, but still pretty few applicants, I believe.
On this note, of job posting, Dennis, I think job posting into like a group or a channel is quite an immature way to reach candidates, but you see it all the time. Whenever you see a community, it starts off this way. People just post jobs. It's effective for a moment, but then of course, people aren't persistently looking for jobs all the time. So the audience rate will go down. Eventually, a new thing will evolve related to job discovery, using the channel in a different way. But you know what? You said very interesting. I don't understand either why Telegram is not more widely used. I think in the UK, it's WhatsApp. It's certainly more adopted. Almost everyone who I add on my phone has a WhatsApp account. And it's also very useful. Probably the closest competitor to Telegram. I wonder whether it's the origins of Telegram being from, if you like, the Russian side, and probably not promoted or marketed in any way. And already you have now WhatsApp an incumbent. In the US, by the way, neither WhatsApp or Telegram. It's all Facebook Messenger. I know no US person on Telegram. And actually on WhatsApp, I am often inviting them to join. So It seems that the territories are evolving different ways to do the instant messenger, which is super interesting. By the way, on
I
Telegram,
would like to just sorry for interrupting. I just would like to add about WhatsApp. I just would like to add about WhatsApp. Probably I can assume that it's still widely used in the US because it's part of the Facebook anyway. So it's one kind of family of. And
I don't think they do it. I don't think they do it. I mean, Americans can prove me wrong, but I see many more people on Facebook Messenger as a default, as like whenever an American creates a group, it's on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, but it could be. I have the explanation probably because after the acquisition of WhatsApp by Facebook, probably they try to get all the users from WhatsApp to Facebook initially because you can't show the advertisement in WhatsApp. So that's why probably they force somehow WhatsApp users to use Facebook Messenger. And I just would like to add like a few notes about Telegram. And first of all, I guess Telegram has all the potential to become kind of a Slack if needed. They have enough functionality to become kind of Slack. So that's way more progressive than WhatsApp. The reason why in the Western world like people don't use it, I would say it's just a matter of trust. So first of all, like in Eastern part, I guess people still less think about their personal data and they less think where this data is stored. So in the US, in the Western Europe, people will think, okay, this is our data is stored in Russia. Probably the kind of conspiracy theory will start to appear and they will start to think, okay, probably like the Russians will take our data or whatever. It might be this kind of stereotype, but it might exist. So first of all, it's kind of a matter of trust. And then if you see the expansion of kind of messengers, it definitely starts with the headquarter. So, and goes, for example, or either west or east. And then I guess this probably not enough time, to kind of for Telegram to conquer the kind of Western market because still it goes like slow steps, like the same like Facebook when they start first in the US, then it goes to Europe, etc. And also like the thing, Han, that we discussed today, probably there is also like for internet, there is some walls should be there, kind of some limitations, and you have the same messenger WeChat in China. And it feels really good because like Chinese people use it, and also like if your friends are not using WeChat, you also like don't going to use it. Same with Telegram. If you're not using it like personally, or like your friends are not using it, so much more likely that you're not going to use it. So also like this is the explanation why like in the US, because everyone uses one type of messenger, so it's hard to switch. So that's probably
So what is fascinating there is that whereas we once had the dream of the World Wide Web being a single unified place, a global village, on Messenger in particular, it looks like it's going to be splintered, whereby you can see different territories for legal reasons, for trust reasons, but also for adoption reasons. That they're going to stick in certain places. So it reminds me a little bit of the very early days of social networking. Before Facebook conquered it everywhere, you had like all kinds of random local social networks. Ireland had a particular one. I forget the name of it. You had Brazil had a different one. Germany had a different one. Everyone had these small things before Facebook overwhelmed everyone. But it looks like the history is repeating again with instant messenger, where we have a battle of 4 or 5 different products that are dominant in a certain territory, and then it's a question to see who is going to be the victor. But it could be, I think, for the instant messenger that it stays fragmented. I don't think, for instance, WeChat is going to lose China. I think it's totally locked in, totally wrapped in, also now backed by government, right? So there's a national security issue for the Chinese government. They're not going to allow WhatsApp or any US-owned or any foreign-owned messenger service to be dominant. Also, now you see the US have adopt the Chinese attitude of this of technological nationalism, where I don't know whether you read today, but they're talking about TikTok being banned in the US because of the so-called national security issue, and of course, huge adoption of TikTok in the US with the teenage community there. So I think that the fragmentation of instant messenger will be reinforced by technological nationalism, where countries will start perceiving these tools as, rightly or wrongly, as a national security issue, they will either outrightly ban these things, or they will put frictions in there to make it unusable or hard to use, using ISPs, using whatever tooling they have at their at disposal. And we're going to end up with a fragmented way of talking to each other. So that seems to be, I think, all kinds of recruitment implications that way, right? We, I think, the three of us, and probably most of the people watching this show, have kind of grown up professionally with a view of the communication channels becoming more and more global, and more able to reach people from different parts of the world. But maybe if we were to replay it, it doesn't look that way anymore. And there's going to be like a couple of hard barriers to connect different territories together. Anyway, I think, there's probably a lot more to say about what is happening in Ukraine. I want to leave you guys with a final point before I let you go. Where do you see the future of recruiting in the country? Do you see Ukraine, for instance, develop an outsourcing, follow the IT outsourcing and become recruitment outsourcing? Do you see the economic situation moving away from outsourcing and actually developing homegrown businesses that focus with the domestic market? How do you see the future of that in your country in the next 5-10 years?
Andrew, go ahead, because I have some noise around. I need to mute it for a moment.
Okay, yeah, I'll take my step. So yeah, I would definitely say that I believe that as far as the tech market and the tech industry will be growing in Ukraine, I guess the recruitment industry will be growing anyway as well. So it could be kind of super connected. And also I truly believe that that Denis said, the quality, because of this pressure and big number of game will definitely increase for a while. Also, I guess probably less recruiters will join this industry in the future. It's just my assumption. But as Denis said, probably the quality will appear. So then we don't need so much recruiters. Also, as more we have a lot of recruiters in Ukraine, probably there is a way that big RPO providers will come to this market to have kind of, especially for sourcing. I'm pretty sure we have really good sourcing expertise, and this expertise will be growing. So instead going to, for example, Philippines or other kind of RPO places, I guess Ukraine has all the chances to become kind of sourcing center in a way to support kind of global businesses. Still, I know that recruiters in Ukraine, they also if they want some challenges, they would like to work somewhere abroad. So that's also kind of, I see even some recruiters from my team. Some of them right now works at Facebook, at Snap, or at Taxify or Bolt company. So still, I see that the level of recruiters. I know that everyone says this. Yeah, in Ukraine you have great engineers, great minds. So I would say the same for recruiters. Still, being under pressure, there will be great talents in recruitment. So I would like to also for Ukraine to be popular in the world, not only for engineers but also for recruiters. And I believe that we have all the potential for this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, there's some great talent in this country that have actually, some of them have moved across and have been successful elsewhere, but residually also that is the case. How about you, Denis? How do you see the future?
Yeah, I want to mention that we already lost 10 million people for the last 5 years. I mean, I think it's enough for them to move abroad. It's just my suggestion.
Start with the bright points.
Yeah, I understand, but still, this is also a case. I mean, and it's kind of an issue for us as a nation. Yeah, but still, I think that I agree that the future is behind the outsourcing, the sourcing function. And I personally trying to do things that will lead to it. And also, I also really believe that in the nearest year, our government going to design better conditions for IT businesses, so we can, have some headquarters of big companies, because I believe that they are already ready to open them due to the talent and due to the intelligence level of our community, but they just can't afford themselves due to our governmental things, and due to the how businesses are feeling in general in Ukraine. So yeah, I think that actually everything is going on pretty well, and we definitely going to have the bright future, because I think the talented people should survive, and should feel better than they actually currently feeling. So that's why I actually also trying to not to think about moving abroad, and make it happens here, because if everyone goes, then no one going to deal with it.
You know what? That's a really great thing to say, Denis. I think a lot of people don't understand, especially in Western Europe, that they have the reverse. Northern Europe particularly have the reverse attitude. People come and they don't leave, whereas many countries actually have a drain of talent, and that is debilitating for society. It's very difficult for the economy as well. The UK, about the Brexit, actually, I don't think my friends in the UK don't quite understand that this might trigger a brain drain at a small level, but that was actually super negative. You're going to get a lot of talent, a lot of interesting people that could and should be setting up businesses in the UK, now doing it in Amsterdam, now doing it in Berlin, now doing it elsewhere, and that's just a net loss for the economy and society as well. Something that I think countries that have unfortunately had more instability and more economic problems know very well. But the Brits, I think, are a little bit overly complacent. But we are unfortunately about to learn a few tough lessons, I think. Anyway, listen, guys, you've been absolutely fascinating and amazing. Teach us a little bit about the conditions of recruiting in your country. I'll be very pleased to get this out as a podcast as well. I hope the audio is okay. I've got a really busy room here, but I think it sounds okay. I just want to thank you both for your support. Thanks everyone else for watching here as well. You've been awesome. We will be back next week. I think finally I'll be back in London. So I've been on the road for like 6 weeks. But we'll be back in London. We'll be business as usual. Adam Gordon parachutes back in for his return. So make sure you tune in for that. That's us out in Kiev. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. It's been great having you.
Thanks. Likewise.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.